says mirror my video. That's it.
They must have changed it because originally we were supposed to have that ability.
Yeah, because I saw it in the training video, but I didn't see it on the settings here. Okay, well, we won't worry about that then.
All right, looks like we're getting some folks joining up. We'll give it just another second or two. Awesome.
Before you open the doors, or are they open?
It's open. We're in. We're live. There's 97 people watching already.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us for Lights Camera Prospect. Level up your video outreach with Julie Hansen. My name is Matt Carlson, and I'm a technical account manager here at Consensus. And I will be your moderator for today's session. All right. DemoFest is presented by Consensus. Consensus is leading the world into a new era of demo automation. Our platform gets your buyers what they need, when they need it. It then multiplies your revenue team's impact and unique insights on those buyers. As a result, you'll see faster close times, larger deals, and higher close rates. You can learn more at goconsensus.com or view the automated micro demo at the link in the Docs tab on the right of your screen. We encourage each of you to participate in today's session. On the right side of your console, you can see a few ways to engage with us throughout the session. The chat function will allow you to engage with us as well as other attendees. Throughout the session, you may see a few polls. We encourage you to participate as your feedback is important to us. Our speaker will be taking questions from the audience at the end of the session. We encourage you to ask questions at any time through the Q&A box. If at any time you're having technical difficulties, head to the gear on the bottom of your screen, and here you will see a help document to troubleshoot common issues. And now I would like to introduce our speaker. Julie Hansen is a sales triple threat, mastering the art of sales, pre-sales, and screen acting. Her pioneering work is using video for sales, highlighted in her award-winning book, Look Me in the Eye, Using Video to Build Relationships. Has earned her recognition as a top virtual sales trainer with over 75 appearances in commercials, films, and TV shows. Julie brings a unique blend of performance principles and sales expertise to her workshops and coaching on video outreach as well as virtual executive presence. Join Julie and learn how to quickly connect, stand out, and close more business in the virtual world. And with that, I will turn the rest of the time over to you, Julie.
Well, thank you, Matt. So happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this for months and months. I think we want to start off first with that poll, if you would open that for everyone, Matt. Want to find out, since we're talking about leveling up your video, what that means for you in terms of what your plans are. Do we have that open?
Yep, it's there.
Okay. So let me just share my screen now. We're going to talk specifically about video outreach, but of course this has implications for video demos and other steps within the sales process. So don't think it limits that. All right, so let me get my. What I want to know is where you guys are thinking of improving. Just I assume everybody is here because they want to improve. As far as the next steps in your video outreach, and got a couple of different options there. It's more equipment, maybe it's more tools, more technology, a platform that gives you analytics and scripting, and maybe it's avatars, maybe it's on-camera training. So whatever that means for you, and then we'll fill that out and we'll see where everybody's at in a few minutes here. Okay, so you may think, gosh, well, why do we have to level up our video outreach? We've got things in place. We're putting videos out. A couple of reasons here I want you to be aware of. The overall use of video by individual users, so sellers, marketing, technical marketing, has been up 103% over the last 2 years, and that sees no sign of lightening up. Interestingly, tech is in the lead here as far as the blue with the just number of user-generated videos per company, followed closely by financial services and professional services. So you can see that there's a lot happening, a lot of activity. And I think what's really of note as we dig down into this data, which was provided by Vidyard, they do an annual benchmark report. And that growth is really what they're seeing in the big companies with 55% increase in the number of user-generated videos for companies. So if you think about it, and I'm certainly working with some bigger teams as well, who maybe weren't as quick to adopt, but when they do, man, it throws a lot of video on the market. If you think about, a company like, IBM, all of a sudden making their team video ready, that's a lot of videos being thrown out there that we have to compete with. So that's a concern. And really, let's put it this way: we're too late to be early in the terms of being an early adopter. So those advantages of being an early adopter, which used to mean, gosh, when somebody got a video, it was kind of unusual, right? Whether it was through email or LinkedIn, we're moving out of that phase. It's no longer, oh, a video, let me see what's on it. We're getting a little more discerning, which means our buyers are getting a lot more discerning because there's more video out there. And of course, they've got less time to watch it. So those are some challenges that we're faced with. I want to introduce you to some new competition that you may have heard a little bit about. Let me pull your competition up here. See what you think.
Hi, it's Avatar Julie. I heard a lot of people were laughing at my last video because of my wooden affect and disjointed gestures. However, I see a lot of salespeople on video who appear pretty robotic and unable to convey the warmth, empathy, and enthusiasm that apparently I do. But you know what? I will get better. Will they?
Hey, my avatar just made a great point.
Hi, Julie.
Okay, so, whoops, there she goes. There's no stopping her. Stop. So, yes, meet my avatar. She needs a little work, but you know what? She's going to work hard and she may be better than me eventually. I don't know, but certainly not there yet. But it is something to be aware of, right? Um, the challenge, I think, is if we can't be as good as an avatar, or certainly better, we may have some issues in the future. So, something to be very aware of and keep an eye on. I tend to think, and heard some interesting things from some other folks today, that this is not necessarily what customers want. I did a very informal poll on LinkedIn and asked people what their reaction would be to receiving a sales video from an avatar. Most people, as you can see, like, nope, why should I trust this? Some were frankly insulted, why don't I rate a real person? Some people indifferent, some people interested to see what it's all about. I know Tyler Green this morning said something interesting about the fact that most humans, he still believes, crave that human connection, and I think that's really where our forte is going to be and something that only we can offer. And so I'm going to show you some ways to really showcase that and make sure we stay a step ahead of the robots. Okay, so I happened to be on the AI panel last Demo Fest, which was interesting reviewing that. And at that time, there was a panel going on in the hearing in the Senate Judiciary here in the U.S. And I thought this was interesting. The Chief Privacy Trust Officer at IBM said, no person anywhere should ever be tricked into thinking they're interacting with AI. So something to think about as we're moving forward, because trust is such a vital piece of sales. So not to say that there aren't many uses for AIs and even avatars in sales, but this may not be the best use. But the fact is, with all these things happening, we have to think about how are we going to stand out, right? How are we going to stand out in this environment? And certainly, it's difficult just without all the videos coming out, all the competition, because again, buyers are as busy as you are, if not more busy. So, Matt, would you share the results of that poll with us? See what you guys said in terms of what you're looking at doing for improvement. Okay. Upgraded equipment got a few votes on the creation distribution platform, personalized video outreach tool. Only one person voted for avatars. Okay. On-camera skills training. Well, I would have guessed, because that's what this session probably sounded like it's about, that this is a special group. So I appreciate that, because that is indeed what we're going to talk about, because it is, in fact, where we have a huge advantage. And that's what I want to share with you guys today. Okay, so what happens is we've thrown a lot of technology at people, and they are inundated with ways to share their videos and record their videos and tools and advice on subject lines and cadence and all this kind of stuff, which is not unimportant, but it's much like having a budget for a movie and spending all your money on the director and the script and the lighting and the costumes and the production and marketing. And then we bring in someone just off the street without any training, professional training on camera, to be the lead actor. Now, as you can imagine, it's probably not going to win a lot of awards, right? Not going to be a showstopper. So we want to think about what are we missing in this piece of the pie? Because we've got a lot of tools now. We've been busy throwing tools at salespeople since the pandemic, and there's no shortage of them now with of course, all these AI tools that we now have. So we're going to look at how we can help support our sales team, how we can help use sellers and pre-sales folks that are here to be more effective on video using yourself. I would say when you are talking to a camera, you have more in common with an actor than you do a salesperson. You're using acting skills. You should be using acting skills. You're trying to do your best, but you didn't get into sales to be an actor. I understand that. And yet you're thrown in an environment where that's exactly what you were doing. And what I want to do is help you understand what tools from that trade can really make it easier for you and help you produce more compelling videos more efficiently. I think a lot of times we think, well, I've been on video for a while and I'm comfortable on camera. I know what I'm doing. I can maneuver my way around. I can, say, give a demo. I can do a presentation. However, there's a huge gap between comfort and mastery. And because of the competition, because of the just onslaught of videos that are coming at buyers, we have to really move into mastery if we're going to get our videos watched, if we're going to get them watched past those first few seconds. I bring this up because in addition to working in sales all my life, I worked as a professional actor. Well, first I worked as an unprofessional actor. And one of my first auditions in front of the camera was with this little show. I just moved to New York and was super excited about it. I was like, oh my gosh, this could be fantastic. Even though it was, it was a small part. But I had never auditioned for a film role before. I grew up in Denver at the time. We didn't have a lot of film or television work necessarily going on. So it was mostly live theater, which is very much like live sales. It's very much like a live call. And you could feed off your audience and, very, very different frame. And I went in there to that audition and the casting director said, okay, go. And I sort of froze. I couldn't remember my first line and I wasn't sure what to do with my hands or my body. And I'm sure I just was wooden as a wooden ship. And about 10, 15 seconds in, they just said, okay, cut, thanks, we'll be in touch. Well, they were not in touch. Not a big surprise there. And I didn't get that audition. I didn't get several auditions. And finally, a friend in the business said, well, have you taken any on-camera classes? And I said, no. You think I should? She's like, yeah, that's what we do. That's your craft. And so I started training in, how we adapt for this screen, how we talk to people we can't see and make them feel connected. And then I started getting some parts, mostly commercials. I had a small part in a show you may be familiar with as well, Sex and the City. Of course, that isn't me. This is me, looking very sad. It was a funeral scene. Cynthia Nixon's mother's funeral, season 1, in the original Sex and the City, which I don't necessarily recommend the follow-ups. So, very important experience in my development. I didn't realize it would be transferable into my sales career, but it obviously was. And now it's transferable into your sales career. So there's a lot to learn from people who have been honing the skill of speaking on camera and motivating audiences and connecting with them in a way that inspires them. So I want you to think of your video, especially in terms of outreach, if it's a first video you're sending to someone, trying to get their attention, as an audition. And just like an audition, if you don't nail it, you don't get a second chance. And so there's a lot of pressure on that. We don't want to become so tied up in knots about the pressure and the enormity of that. But there are certain things that we need to know about how to make the best of that very tense situation in terms of whether we're going to get watched or not. Because we don't want to have our video deleted, right? So we want to make sure that we grab the attention of our audience right away and draw them in. So I'm going to share with you some professional tips for creating videos that get watched and acted upon. And these are professional in terms of from directors, from casting directors who are much like prospects in that they see, hundreds of different people for a role. They send them tapes all the time now. And they just decide very quickly, yes, no, moving ahead, not moving ahead, delete. And I don't know if you heard Keith Tanaka speaking this morning, but somebody had asked him like how he decided on consensus in this product, and because he gets a lot of outreach, and he talked about how much outreach he gets, and so there's a lot of competition out there. So it's important to know if you are auditioning, if you are sending a video to someone, how does your audience see you? What are they taking away from your presence? What is it that's keeping them tuned in? What is it that's causing them to tune out? And this is from my Lights Camera Prospecting course. And we start with really thinking about that your video as an audition and looking at what you're doing right and what is not working, because you don't know what to do if you don't know where you're currently at. You don't know where to go. So where are you now? We do a virtual assessment and see again, how are you grabbing attention? How are you maybe losing people? Casting directors for this, from several of them, say they have to fall in love with you in the first 15 seconds. Now, that may sound dramatic. Maybe it's not love, but it's certainly interest. It's certainly, there's things that appeal to your buyer. They have to feel like they want to spend a few more seconds with you. They certainly have to like you, find you competent, find you credible. And I think it's less time than that, because they are so busy, because you probably have about 7 to 10 seconds to really grab their attention. And in acting, in sales, you're really always selling the next minute. And in video, you're selling the next 10 seconds, right? So you can't afford to have a slow start. We have to come across very quickly as competent, likable, trustworthy, interesting, interested in them, or people aren't going to hang around. And that's basically a first impression that we're talking about. We have to have a really strong first impression. You've probably seen this in training classes, how communication is received by someone. And this is really based in the first few seconds when you meet someone. And you can see most of what makes up our first impression comes from someone's body language, is orange section here, 55%. 38% comes from the sound, the tone, the quality of the voice, and 7% from the words. Now, of course, if your words are gibberish, it doesn't matter how great, you look on camera, your body language is. But you're competing at a pretty high level, most of you. So most people have pretty good content. They've got the right words. And I'm not saying don't keep working on that. Content is, I think Keith said this morning, content is king. Absolutely. But at this point, we've all been working that content pretty hard. So this is that added piece that really can be the difference maker. So we know what goes into that first impression. And if much of it is that body language, let's think about what our body is saying. So in the first second, I thought this study was fascinating. Just by looking at someone's face, we can determine whether they're competent, likable, aggressive, trustworthy, just by looking at someone's face. And longer impressions, looking at their face longer, doesn't necessarily change that reaction, which I think is frightening, isn't it? But that just tells you the power of that first impression. And most people don't know what their face says. They don't know what their whole presence says. They don't know what their virtual stage says to their audience. You have to be 100% on. You have to have everything in place before that camera is on. You have to make that first impression immediately. And what I find is most sellers really don't hit that sweet spot in their video till about 20, 30 seconds in. And that's frankly just too late. So in the first few seconds, everything counts, right? Actors know that, and athletes know that you can't come to the starting line, you can't come to the camera and just kind of ease into your performance, right? You got to be ready out of the gate. You got to be ready when that light goes on, which means you have to prepare. You have to make sure that you are doing the work ahead of time. If you want to not waste time on video, you want to make sure that you do those, you do some warm up, you get your energy up, because otherwise it takes a long time to make a good video if you're not at your peak yet. I recommend a warm up before you do videos to get you in that great state. I have a 7-minute warm up that's in my book, and I think you can find it on my website too, or email me. But just to get all your expressive muscles working, and we don't use a lot of our expressive muscles when we're sitting in front of a screen a lot. And we often forget them in Zoom calls. And certainly when we're talking on video, those habits follow through. So we have to remember a couple things about the camera. You may have heard the camera adds 10 pounds. Now, there's sadly some truth to that, but it flattens things out, right? But that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that it takes away a big chunk of your energy. And so oftentimes we are seated, and so we already have low energy, and then we're talking on camera and our energy goes down and the power goes out of our voice, and everything just gets really, really low, right? So, as Julia Hull said, that's where the term RBF comes from. Exactly. Resting business face. It's the bane of our existence. So important to know what your face says. And most people have no idea. They think that what they intend to communicate is coming across on camera. And that is not always the case, just because of the way the camera distorts certain things, and also your behavior and not necessarily aligning with what you intend. And perception is reality on camera, right? That is what your audience sees. That's all they know. And they're not going to make excuses for you and say, "Oh, she probably means this," or I'm sure she's really interested in me. No, they're not going to do that. The other thing that casting directors say to really make an impact in those first few seconds is to be bold, but to be truthful. So those seem like sort of contradictory things, but I want you to think about what I see a lot on video is in terms of people being just holding back, right? They're holding back their real personality. They're not committing 100% to being here and to talking to me through the camera. And you can't afford to do that on video. You have to really be vulnerable, and you have to be bold in the sense that you're being the best version of yourself, not bold being some character that has nothing to do with you, because that's not truthful. And one thing we know for sure about the camera is that it picks up the truth. So one way to bring out the boldness and to really commit to what you're saying is to have what actors do is have this moment before they go on camera. It's because it is hard to go from 0 to 100, to all of a sudden be talking to somebody and be really into the conversation and you can't even see them, right? So having this moment before, thinking about, why does my prospect need to hear this? What is important about this for them? And why do they need to hear it now? So if I can really key into those whys, then that can really help me bring the right energy and that truthfulness to it. Because otherwise they're just empty words if I'm just repeating a script. And we're going to look at some techniques for working with scripts in a minute. So being bold, but being truthful. And the truth is that the camera is a lie detector. So if you are not truthful, and that's why I think this, avatars are a reach, certainly at this point. If you are not truthful, if if something seems off, there's some incongruency, they're not going to watch, right? They may not know why, but they're going to get the sense that you're not being honest. And that's the one thing that we can't afford to have in sales is dishonesty and a lack of trust. Oftentimes it's as simple as incongruent behavior. We just don't trust people whose face says one thing and their words say something else. I get on the video so many times with people like, "Hey, it's really great to see you." I'm like, "Is it though?" Because it doesn't seem like it's that great for you. Or they say, "I'm going to save you. This is going to save you $100,000" with the same expression as they might say, "Pass the salt." At least let us know how you feel about what you're saying from your face, right? If it's good news or bad news, I should know that without even having the sound on. So we want to avoid, as someone brought up, Julie, I think we want to avoid resting business face, or as Art said, resting demo face. I see a lot of that too, right? Let your, this has to be you at your most expressive. Think about if you were sitting across from a friend having a conversation about something you're really passionate about. your face wouldn't be a complete blank. But we get in front of a camera, and that's a behavior that we've learned just from sitting in front of a screen for most of our life, and it hasn't been a two-way conversation until the last few years. So we're not necessarily skilled in this area. Another thing casting directors say, I want the video to look and sound like the person that we are potentially going to work with. I think that's true of every relationship, isn't it? If you've ever done any online dating, you know that that's certainly true. Nobody wants to be tricked into working with somebody who's not anything like the video that they sent them. So that's why we want to be bold, but we want to be within our authentic selves. They want to be connected with on a personal level, and so there's a couple of ways to do this. The tactics behind this. Some of it is mental, some of it is actually tactical and physical. Think about connecting with them on equal status. If you are going in feeling less than, like you're desperate and you're begging, you're just hoping for attention. I know you're so busy, and people aren't going to respond to that. They want to feel right away that they are in the hands of someone who is equal and has something to offer, something of value. And so if you don't believe that, it's going to come across. Again, camera's a lie detector. It will come across. I had a director always say, whatever you're feeling, it will leak out on your face, because there you are, front and center on camera. The other thing is we want to connect with people in the way that we engage with them, the way that we look at them. So if you can think of a show where a TV show or movie where an actor speaks directly to the camera, would you type that into chat? Let me just see what you guys. I like Michael. He says, I think my face says I probably work here. Deadpool. Oh yeah, I've got a couple Deadpool, Ellie and Ron, The Office, Ferris Bueller. Oh, yep. The Office, Abbott Elementary. You're right. It's become a very popular technique. Airplane. Yeah, going back, there's some older ones. I find this question really dates people. So newscast, certainly WandaVision, Fleabag. Yes, Fleabag is a good one at that. Boy, you guys got a couple of them right there. That is a technique. What is the name of that technique? I think I saw somebody put that in there. Does anybody know what that technique is called? Oh, Jordan, so close. Breaking the third wall. Ellie was right. It's act art. It's breaking the fourth wall. The fourth wall is the camera. It's everything else around us is real, and then there's the camera. And most of the time, actors and salespeople just kind of go about their business, not really paying attention to the fourth wall, right? And which makes your audience just a passive observer. But suddenly, when that actor looks directly in the camera and speaks to you, it's like, whoa, they're talking just to me. But guess what? There could be 1 million people watching. And yet, why does it feel so personal? Well, part of that is because they are thinking about talking to one person. So in order to make people feel like you're talking to them, you can't think, oh, I can't think, oh, there's 104 people watching this. So, okay, you guys, so here's what I'm going to talk about. And I hope I'm hitting Ellie and Art and there. No, you have to think about, I'm talking to Art, right? Or one person on there. That's how that changes your tone, that changes your connection, that changes even what you say sometimes, because you are much more personal and intimate when you're thinking about talking to one person than you are talking to a group. So there really is never, there's not such a thing as talking to a group of people on camera. You should only be talking to one person. Okay. That's our audition piece. Okay. There's a lot we can talk about in terms of body language and things that you can do to really show quickly credibility, confidence, competence, likability. But those are some basic starters there. Now I want to talk about this idea of creating more of a dialogue than a monologue, which is what we are used to. And I think Natasha was talking about monologues versus dialogues in her automation session today, which was very good. Should check it out if you did not have a chance. So let's talk about the script, which and this can be it can be a formal script that you have that's all written out. It can be bullet points. I'm just talking about your content, right? It's something maybe you wrote, maybe somebody else wrote, but they're words that you want to say or have to say. So we want to think about in terms of creating a dialogue. Now you may think, well, that's crazy. It's just me talking. There's no one on the other end. Au contraire. Our job here in terms of working with content, which as Keith said this morning, content is king. It's very important, but our job is to bring those words to life, to connect with our audience through those words and make it a dialogue. Most videos are monologues. Most people are recording monologues. Monologues are incredibly hard to do, even for actors. It's hard to do a good monologue. I had a 4-minute monologue one time in a show, and oh my God, I had to work that thing to death. But it's difficult to keep people engaged, to keep yourself engaged, to bring life to those words, unless you approach it a certain way. So I want to share with you some ways that actors work with scripts to make them more of a dialogue. So when I say it's not a monologue, it's a dialogue, you're probably thinking, well, what does she mean by that? So you are actually having a thought after I say something. Your part in my monologue is silent, right? But your head is not an empty space. I did read something in the news that said like 30% of the people have no internal dialogue. I thought, what? What must that be like? But most of us are thinking, what is she going to tell us? What does this matter? Where am I going to go to lunch? Right? We got a whole talk track going in our head. That is going on at a different time than when you're delivering the video, but it is still going on with your buyer. And if we can tap into that part, if we can understand that, we can create more of a dialogue. What happens is the one of the reasons that talking to a camera and no one being on the other side is so awkward and uncomfortable is that the normal communication loop that we're so used to is not in place. It's disrupted. So for instance, you send a message, and I don't mean like email. I say you say something. Say, hey, Bob, I'm going to share with you how we can help you improve your video outreach today. Now, if Bob was there, he'd say something, right? We'd interpret it. He's interested, he's not interested, but it gives us feedback. And then we say, so yeah, here, let's start with this particular area. Now, because there's no one there, that whole communication loop is broken, right? So we send a message. We have no idea how the other person's interpreting it. We get no feedback, and we just have to continue forging ahead without any sense of where this is landing, which is really uncomfortable, and it makes us sound we get very unnatural and wooden. And this happens, by the way, not just when recording video, but also if we're on a Zoom or a Teams call or meeting and the other person or people aren't on video. The same thing happens, except we also check in a whole bunch, which can be annoying. So we have to trust that there is something happening in people's brain and that someone is watching this and we are having a conversation. Their part is silent. So this is from my acting as if method, which is in the book and I teach in the course. There's many pieces to it, but it is acting as if that other person is in the conversation with you and really sort of acknowledging internally and a little bit externally that they are communicating back with you. So to do this, one of the, or a couple of techniques I'm going to share with you have to do with your script. So we have to actors call it breaking down the script. And I'm going to share with you some tips that will help you bring that script to life and also make it more of a dialogue here. And breaking down a script just means, really understanding why you're saying what you're saying, and it also makes it easier for you to memorize. So I've got a little script here that I might say on a video, and I'm going to show you how I would work, how we would break it down, and how I would use it to make it more of a dialogue with my audience. So I could just say this whole thing. So, congrats on investing in Consensus for your team. It's an awesome platform. Have you thought about how you're going to make sure the great content gets watched by prospects? I ask because we're seeing a huge increase in video usage by sales teams, et cetera, et cetera. So I could just read the script, which is what most people do, right? I wrote it down, I checked all the boxes, and memorize it, or do the best I can to read it, or record it in chunks, whatever works for you. But what we want to do is stop and take a minute and break it down and make it more usable, more memorizable, and more impactful. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break it into what's called beats. Okay. And these are each individual ideas, right? Not necessarily individual sentences. Sometimes there's a couple sentences, but so first of all, I'm congratulating them on investing in an awesome platform, right? That's kind of a whole separate beat. And then I'm adding a new beat. Have you thought about how you're going to make sure that great content actually gets watched? And then the next beat is I ask, because we're seeing a huge increase in video usage by sales teams. So buyers are being very selective, sellers are getting frustrated, etc. And then the last beat is, so I help teams create compelling videos that get watched longer, etc., etc. So I've got my script broken down into specific beats. Can't say that word. And now I want to do something that is going to help bring this to life. And that is I'm going to think about what is the unspoken question, because of course I'm not going to hear it from my audience. What is the unspoken question that is going through their mind? Well, what do you think the first question that goes through someone's mind is when they get a video? Anybody? Type in the chat. What do you think when you click on a video? Let's see. Why should I watch this? Is it safe? Well, that's a good question. Who is this person? Why should I care? How long is this? Is this worth my time? Why was it sent to me? Right? They're not thinking, oh, great, I can't wait to see what this person has to say. No, it's what is this? Should I invest my time in it? Okay, so I need to answer that question right away. So I'm going to approach that in a certain way. What is this about? Right? Why am I watching this? So my first sentence answers that question. And I don't necessarily, both in content, but also in delivery. So it might be, hey, Bob, congrats on investing in Consensus for your team. It's an awesome platform. Have you thought about how you're going to make sure that great content gets watched by potential buyers? Now, I've just thrown something out there, and he might think, well, I haven't. Why? Or kind of, but maybe I haven't done anything about it, or, oh, there's something else I need to think about. And so now I'm going to answer that question. Well, I asked because we're seeing a huge increase in video usage by sales teams. So buyers are being very selective in what they watch. A lot of sellers find their videos don't get watched past the first few seconds, and they get frustrated and give up. And finally, the next beat is going to be, they're going to be thinking, okay, so I assume you have an answer for that or a solution. What I do is I help teams create compelling videos that get watched longer and acted upon by applying proven techniques from screen actors, which now many salespeople are finding themselves in that position of. So if you're serious about getting the most out of your investment in video, let's find some time to chat. So that is the process of breaking it down, thinking about what is that unspoken question that I'm answering, to really give it a sense of a dialogue. It also creates some natural pauses, because this is not a get through this script, read one sentence after another. When it's a conversation, you ask a question, you're going to pause because they are going to think about the answer. When I say, have you thought about how are you going to make sure that great content gets watched by potential buyers? Well, I ask, so you want to take a natural pause as you would in a conversation. So that is one of the scripting techniques that I like to use. You may be thinking, well, is it easier just to use a teleprompter? Uh, it may be easier for you, but it's not an easy experience to watch. uh, Many people think they are getting away with it, and they're not, because we are experts at reading people's eyes. You can see people's eyes moving side to side. They have that wooden delivery, like they're just reading the lines for the first time, even if they're not, because our reading uses a different part of our brain than speaking. And so you're trying to do two things at once, and it never quite lands well. It got odd emphasis and pauses and pasted on body language. uh, Dead sign that you're not being truthful, right? And again, we want to be at our core truthful and authentic. If you are going to use a teleprompter, if you can't find any way around it, learn the techniques. Even the actors you know and love, if they use a teleprompter, they have been trained on it to use it well. So my advice on teleprompters is, if use the techniques or lose it. Don't use it, because you're not going to get a good response. All right, I want to talk about screen presence very shortly here. We often say when people are good at cameras, like, oh, they have such great screen presence, they're good on camera. There's a number of things that go into that. But one thing that I want to really pound into everyone's heads is that we are not on video to deliver information. If it were enough to just tell you what I can do, I could send you a Word document. I could send you a bullet point sheet. But we're here to make someone feel something, and that's really what screen presence is about. And that's what casting directors want. That's what I think buyers want. They want you to make us feel like this is something exciting, or this is an area I need to look into because it has consequences. But they want to feel something. And if your words aren't backed by any real feeling, you are just delivering information. And that is often what happens when people are using a script, or when they're doing a lot of videos and they're just not taking the time to really connect with their audience through them. So this is where this idea of being intentional really matters, because if I'm intentional, if I think about how I want you to feel about what I'm saying, I don't have to go, okay, I'm going to move like this, and I'm going to smile here. I know my voice will change if I'm trying to motivate you. My voice and my cadence will change, and my expression will change if I'm trying to get you excited about something, and if I'm trying to warn you or challenge you on something. My body and my voice know what to do. So this is sometimes difficult for people when we're first learning how to talk to the camera and work with the script, and then think about how I want people to feel. It's a lot of balls in the air, but this is how it comes together. This is sort of that finishing piece. So how you want your audience to feel, your intention is going to impact how they feel, how they react. So think about in your video, what is it you want them to feel? Do you want to feel reassured? Do you want to feel intrigued? Do you want them to feel a little bit uncomfortable? I don't know. Maybe there's different feelings in different parts of the video. But that's where we start to connect with people, and it starts to feel like that personal connection. Because ultimately, if you're not clear about how you want them to feel, they're not going to be clear either, right? It's going to be just reiterating information, likely. All right, so I want to share with you a couple examples of what's possible when you pull all these things together, all these different pieces. First of all, I work with teams both on virtual meetings, virtual presentations, demos, on as well as their video recordings, on improving their ability to engage an audience, whether they can see them or not. executive presence, credibility, first impression. And I've tracked over the past year the teams that I've worked with, and they've been able to improve an average of, I think, around 65% in terms of how they come across in all these different areas. We do an assessment at the beginning, and by the end, they have improved at least, I think, 65, 70% in terms of engagement and presence and credibility. So it really is, I think, telling, and these are teams from some larger companies, that we are not working at our highest potential on video yet. And then you do video recordings, and it's even more challenging. Let me share with you what's possible in terms of video. And this is from a good friend of mine now that I worked with in Consensus, and Tom McLeod, who some of you may know. Of course, everyone at Consensus knows Tom. And I worked with him a little bit last year. He was so gracious to work with me. And I want to share with you kind of the before and after.
Okay. Hey, just into the inbox. This email you well. Look, I know you're in New York. I was there grabbing a coffee. I'm not. I'm in London, so this video will have to suffice. Joe, look, you are a really good sales leader, and just a stat I wanted to share with you. Do you know your salespeople are only 5% of the time? Hey, Joe. Excuse me dropping in the box like this. Obviously, I know that you are based in New York. Look, if I was there, we'd be grabbing a bagel and a coffee now, but unfortunately, I am in London, so we can't. Look, Joe, you are a sales leader, and obviously, I'm not sure if you're aware, but your sales team are only selling 5% of the time. Whoa! Now, before you go and fire them all, I just want you to realize that this is industry standard. Go and check out Gartner's research on the topic.
Well, I just love that video. Now, and Tom is here. Tom is in the house. Your hand for Tom. I just think that embodies the best of all those techniques in terms of being present, of being authentic, of being bold. I knew exactly how he felt about what he's saying. I know how he made me feel like, yeah, that would be, that is scary. And I'm not going to fire my whole team, but it's a thought, right? I get his personality. He showed some humor. So he's bold in his own authentic way. So that is what's possible when people start to understand how to connect through the camera. And there's just lots of different tools, and that's why I think it's important that we start to leverage some of those before it gets so competitive that we can't get our foot in the race. So creating screen presence is certainly a big part of what we do. Recording secrets. There's a lot of tips from actors and directors on how to record in a way that's more efficient and more effective, and you get a better take faster. I'm going to share with you just a couple of techniques for specific types of videos that may be more efficient, and give you some ideas in addition to what you're currently doing to personalize those videos and make it easier to memorize and put videos together. I think it's really helpful to think in terms of creating customizable pieces. You may have a tool that helps you do that, but whether it's breaking your content into, you've got an intro that's very specific to each person, but then you've got a body of your video that is common with all the particular buyers that you're reaching out to, and then maybe you have a personal wrap, or maybe that is common as well. And that way you can record in chunks. And I think as an actor, I always found it's easier to kind of work with one piece of content and really get that down instead of trying to go from the top to the bottom. So I would record like all my intros while I've got my my intention in mind, and I know how I want them to feel, and I know why I need to tell them this now. And then I might record the body, which can be shared by everyone, and then Maybe you've got a personal wrap, maybe not. So that's oftentimes a good way to look at it. I also want to encourage you to think about, I know a lot of you use the consensus tool, is when you are creating videos, think in terms of the hybrid video of not just the screen share, but making sure you kick things off and you use all the advantages of our human connection right at the start and go full video. Don't, I'm in a little corner of your screen right now, which I don't recommend typically, but go full video for the start. Really challenge yourself to boldly be authentic and connect with your audience. Then go into the screen share and then come back and tell us what you want us to do. So I think those are some of the best ways to approach doing video with content. So I'm going to open up for questions in a moment. There is a download there. There's under documents. There's a 10 tips to level up your video outreach, some of which we talked about, but just as a good cheat sheet to remind you. This is part of my Lights Camera Prospect program, which is part on-demand videos, part training and coaching. I also do virtual, as I said, virtual assessments. And that way I always do those before a workshop, after a workshop, so you can see where you've improved and you know where you need to improve. Virtual presence and virtual executive presence. So feel free to reach out if you just want to have a chat about your team. You're not sure if they're, working to their highest potential. If you mention you saw this on DemoFest, I'd be happy to do a complimentary virtual assessment. Oops, I just said that to 100 people. Okay. Hopefully you all won't take me up on it. No, that's fine. Okay, so do we have any questions?
Yeah, let me jump in with a few questions. We got some good ones here. Michael McDowell says, I did theater when I was younger, and I'm a big fan of playing the part of the presenter, which is a more amplified version of himself. I think this is a good technique, especially for people that are slightly more introverted or lower energy by nature. Since this is still rooted in the authentic self, are you okay with it, or would you discourage it for most people?
Oh my gosh. Michael, is that Michael McDowell?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I did not talk about a technique that I usually talk about, which is to your point, and that is most people do not bring enough energy. I often recommended doing an over-the-top practice, like just going big, just channeling like your favorite over-the-top actor, like Al Pacino, who can't do anything that's normal, right? And just practicing big and using your whole body and over-exaggerating, and then record yourself, because right after that, you will probably be without pushing, you will be at an elevated level, because most people operate in their comfort zone. And so we have to stretch that a lot of times in order to get at a level that reads well on camera, which is still you. I bet if you were really excited around your friends, you are close to that over-the-top person on occasion. So yes, great question, Michael.
Awesome. All right. We've probably got time for one more. Let's
Okay.
do, Art has a few, so I'm just going to pick one blindly, Art. I'm sorry if it's not the one you wanted. How far away from you should the camera be? I've seen some presenters whose whole face fills the screen and others who are far away and can hardly see their expressions.
Yes, there is a sweet spot there. I always say aim for a medium close-up, which is because otherwise you're talking about the extreme close-up, which is used very rarely in film. There, Matt's demonstrating that well. Or like you said, you can't see your expressions. What is the point of being on video, right? So it's a personal distance. It's usually, where I am about, chest level. You want to aim for like a fist of space between the top of your head and the top of your screen. That usually is about 18 to 22 inches away from the camera, but it's a good medium personal space.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that was amazing. I know that I critiqued my intro to your presentation and did everything wrong. So thank you for all of the education there.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's humbling, I know, to get to understand how people see you on their screen. But it's important information, right?
Absolutely. Awesome. Julie, you want to, let's see here. That was so good. I am just still mind blown here.
Thank you.
All right, a few ending closing statements. We're very excited to be bringing DemoFest on the road again as DemoFest X. We had a great time in San Francisco in February, and we can't wait to bring the event to London and New York City again later this year. You can register to join us at either of those events at demofest.com or at the link in the Docs tab on the right of your screen. We'd also like to encourage you to stop by our expo hall to visit our premier partners of DemoFest. Remember, there is no transfer money involved in this event. It's entirely free. So all of our partners have gone above and beyond to contribute to making this awesome. And thank you all for joining us for this session. And thank you for Julie for the awesome insight and knowledge. Up next is our closing keynote session, and we will be hearing some updates from our product team. We'll see you soon.
Mhm.